This is Tony Hendrick with Painting Spirit, and today subject is going to be Autopilot. And I'm picking this because, pretty much what I talk about with these painting sessions is this place to get into where you're not thinking and allowing the painting to happen. And something I thought about this weekend was that I've been doing these animal paintings, and they have a bit of a different feel than the abstractions and even the landscape paintings. And I talk about letting go and getting out of the mind and getting into the body, feeling for things, feeling for what you're doing, being like a child and all that stuff. And there's a couple of ways to look at that state of being. One is with this idea of the autopilot, getting to a place where you're just automatically in that flow state. But when you think about autopilot, it's really based on somebody having programmed, I'm talking literally, the autopilot that a pilot uses. Somebody has programmed whatever that autopilot is to do what it needs to do to keep the plane in the air. And the pilot can, of course, let go and do whatever the pilot needs to do. What I've been pointing at is something a little bit different than that. And that is more, what I'm talking about is more allowing something to come through you. So the reason I was talking about the animal paintings that I've been doing is, some of you who are watching this might not have the 30 plus years experience of painting that I have. That would be the programming that I've programmed, how to, just basically using a brush and what colors do and what I can expect with some different ways of handling the paint. All of that is like the autopilot, the programming, and so I'm able to do these animal paintings fairly short period of time, and they turn out. But the other part to that is this allowing something to come through that I'm not necessarily in control of, that hasn't been programmed. And the reason that talking about how children create, they don't have that program in them. Not at least to the degree that, 30 years of painting would give a person. Yet there are, this is pretty much across the board at a really young age, is pretty fresh, full of life. And that's what I've been pointing at, is having that be the focus, the goal, or the intent of your art is to have that life, that aliveness. And that can be tapped into no matter what experience you've had painting. It's immediately available. And something else I was thinking about, it was a few episodes ago that, actually it was several weeks ago, I referred to the Lord of the Ring movies and Peter Jackson having done a masterpiece in my mind with the Lord of the Ring movies, and then with The Hobbit there was something different he was tapping into, and it just didn't have that same quality. I don't remember the subject I was referring to, that came to my mind, but this weekend, or actually last week I think it was, I decided to check out those Hobbit movies again, because I hadn't seen them since they came out, and perspectives change, so I was curious. Anyway, there was a scene in the book. I read The Hobbit over and over again. It was kind of an obsession of mine growing up. And my favorite scene in the whole book is the scene where Bilbo wins this riddle contest with Gollum in the cave, and the riddle that was given by Gollum was time. The answer to it was time, and Bilbo in the book was so nervous and afraid because he couldn't come up with the answer to the riddle, and his life was at stake. And Gollum was rushing him. And Bilbo was so nervous, the only thing he could get out, he was wanting to say, give me some more time, give me some more time. And the only thing that came out was a little peep saying, time, time. And the significance to me in that scene with the whole Hobbit thing is this aspect of the Hobbits as part of the book being this innocence of a child, or this trust in life to provide, was all in that scene. He wasn't the one who came up with the answer, but the answer came through him, and the way it worked out, there was another force happening through him. And so the movie totally missed that part of the book, and basically the scene just amounted to Bilbo, actually Gollum said, time's up, and because Gollum said that, Bilbo thought of, oh, it's time. And it just didn't have the same impact. And I think that's what we love about art, is getting into that place where things just happen that are coming through us that we're not necessarily feeling like we're in control of. At least this is the case for myself. Let's see here. I'm gonna change things up a little bit. This is getting a little boring for me. So anyway, I thought that was just something to contemplate when you're creating. Sometimes I get caught up in what I'm talking about with these paintings, and I don't really get myself into that place where I'm just allowing something to happen. I kind of go into automatic pilot, and things turn out kind of similar to the last. So now I'm just gonna kind of get myself into this other autopilot, see what happens. I start to see these deeper colors. Playing with color for me has been something I really have focused on over the last several years. There's things that I've found that I never saw before because I've been practicing with it. One of the things right now that I'm seeing is how these deep colors can create this interesting effect. So these just pure, deep, dark colors. Allowing the paint to mix will create unusual colors that I wouldn't necessarily come up with on my own. So it's all about playing, letting something come through you. So because I've been using these darker colors, I put that pure red on, and it actually has kind of a highlight to it. Maybe I'll even use a pure orange in there, see what happens. Just a little bit, just to give a hint. That just opened up the space, if you saw that. The space of the painting, even though the paint is quite dense right now. A little something like that, a little subtlety. And I was thinking just a second ago that might bring in some white, but I think I'm going to go the opposite direction. Really darken this up, see what happens. Maybe now I'll bring in some white there. A gray with all these deep, pure colors can have a different effect. And just different ways of letting the paint happen. Just little touches like that can finish off a painting. Just bringing something different in there. A little bit there, kind of changed it up too. So that was my bell. So when you're trying to get into that place of no mind and allowing the painting to happen, just pay attention to the difference between those two. There's a huge difference. It might feel the same being in autopilot. Might feel similar, but what I'm looking for is that magic that happens when something comes through me that I didn't plan, I didn't program, wasn't based on something I've done in the past. Something completely new and fresh, interesting, inspiring. So see what you can get inspired by. Get out your brushes and see what happens. We'll see you tomorrow.